Well, insurance is no longer just about policies and claims, it's about data, intelligence, and experience. Welcome to the Insurtech Story Podcast, the podcast where we decode how technology is reshaping the future of insurance. I'm your host, Surya Saha, and in each of our episodes, we bring you conversations with industry leaders, innovators, and disruptors who are redefining insurance as we know it. In today's episode, we are diving into a very important topic on claim stories when insurance truly matters. We'll explore what's changing, what's hype, and what it really means for insurers, customers, and the broader claims ecosystem. Joining us today is Babu Paul, who is the former executive director at National Insurance Company. But before that, Babu Paul has also served as one of the key executives in one of the insurance companies based in Singapore, which is the India International Insurance Pte Limited, where he served from 2018 to 2022 as the managing director and CEO. With that, a deep experience in insurance, he has been at the front of driving innovation in the insurance space in India as well as larger Southeast Asia. With that, Babu Paul, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Surya. Pleasure is mine joining you. Thank you.
Babu Paul, just one quick question to you. In general, we understand how insurance often feels like a distant promise, something we invest in, but hope never to use it, right? And yet, in life's most uncertain moments, it becomes a critical lifeline. So, can you walk us through a real claim use case where insurance significantly changed the outcome for a customer or family?
Good question, Surya. Actually, insurance is something which no one wants to use. That is why when we say that insurance is something which you buy when you don't require it, so that it is there when you require it. So that is, in nutshell, brings in what insurance is buying is all about. Insurance claim actually is the moment of truth, because whatever you find, the persons who make a claim are maybe less than 10%. Out of 100 policy holders, it's just about 10 at best who make a claim or who have the unfortunate incidents where he had to make a claim. And in each and every claim, the insurance company or the insurer makes a huge difference to the insured person, to the client. So insurance is not something which is just a promise and then nothing happens. Insurance really happens. That is why insurance has been thriving in the last so many centuries all over the world, and it has been a handmaiden of trade, and it has been a protection plan for the individuals. Now, I have handled probably maybe 40,000-50,000 claims or even much more on that, and I have seen that every claim makes a difference to the individual or the corporate, because he comes to the insurance company when he has no other option, because an unfortunate incident or an accident is not something which anyone welcomes. It is purely unfortunate. He has suffered a loss, and then the only place where he can get a relief is the insurance company if he's properly insured. So that itself gives a what you call a emotional or a mental backup or a mental strength to the affected person, that there is someone there to assist you. Of course, the story is not that simple or that romantic as I said, or that nice. There's a lot of expectation gap or information asymmetry by which the outcomes may not be very palatable to both sides. Now, I have in my 38 years of service, I have seen few claims. There's no time to get into everything, but one thing which really touched my heart was a personal accident claim of a laborer, or he was a driver. He died, and the agent brought that claim to me. And his nominee was his wife, a young lady with a teenage, a 10 or 11-year-old son. And we had immediately processed in a day's time. The check was ready, but suddenly something struck me about this child, and I said, no, I will not pay the claim to this, the beneficiary, the nominee. I will put this claim with the joint names of this child as well as the mother in a fixed deposit, and this can be taken out only when this child becomes a major, that is maybe after 6 7 years. Sudden thought, and the mother or the wife of the deceased accepted that proposition, and I put it. Then I forgot. I put it in a nationalized bank, Canara Bank, and then I forgot that. 7 8 years later, in a different office, a young man walks into my room and then thanks me profusely. He was that small boy. He said that this insurance money saved me, because in the next 6 7 years, that money would have grown 3 times or 4 times. He had started a small business. Because they are from a economically weaker section. I know that the mother would get remarried and this boy would be nowhere. So he told me that his mother is happily married, living somewhere else, and he is living with his grandparents. This is one story which touched me, although I had no mandate to put a fixed deposit in this boy and mother's name. But then I did that, and that has hugely changed a family, a young man's life. Normally,
Wow.
we find that the claims happening in the personal space, that is the personal accident, the health, the livestock, cattle claims. The cattle claims, again, another interesting thing, which, of course, the modern India has forgotten that during the 80s and 90s, there used to be a lot of, I used to insure a lot of cattle, that is the cows. And for a middle class family or a rural family, a cow is not only a source of income, but a source of support, source of emotional, or cow is a member in the family. And if something happens to that, the whole family, the income goes, the occupation for the women of the house is rearing the cattle, taking in, bathing in, all that. So cattle claims also I have seen after settlements, the, the the family's outcome completely changes. The family's whole thing changes. So claims really happened. And in fact, I have another interesting incident from a very large corporate. The top, one of the top IT companies in this country, which I have been servicing, we have been servicing. That company simply refused to take claim for loss of profits. After a fire, they refused to take claim for loss of profits because they said the word loss of profit in the media will spook the markets and their share price will go down. So there's both sides, no? People always wanting the a higher payout. At the same time, somebody wanting a lower payout because he's more interested in this company's share shareholders value. So a claim payment, however the experience is, definitely brings a positive outcome to the client. Back to you, Surya.
Babu Paul, that's a fantastic, used case that you have spoken, and it's such a, wonderful experiment to see, personal touch to a family through a product called insurance, which not many people would recall because in India we see this as a product to, showcase at the time of filing income tax, right? Or we do not have that trust that it can really help us during an uncertain event. But what you have really touched upon also calls for the need and awareness of what an insurance professional should work on, how their attitude should be, how their personality and skill set should be when they're really working at the front line of insurance. So I think it's a fantastic example, and thank you for sharing for the broader benefit of all the listeners. With that, Babu Paul, my second question to you is, can you discuss the most common challenges that customer face during this process and how can they be better prepared?
Again, a good question, and this is something which will be which will be of interest to almost every insuring person. See, the biggest concern when a person files an insurance claim is the how the attitude changes. the attitude of the agent changes, the attitude of the insurance company changes. So far, for taking a policy or renewing a policy, there is substantial amount of solicitation, persuasion. Insurance is a push product; it's not a pull product. And so the guy who goes in to file a claim immediately realizes that he is not welcome. Unfortunately, that is how life is. So in most of the cases, you find that the attitude changes, so which is unfortunate. That shouldn't be there because he's coming to the insurance company out of no choice. And then saga starts, multiple verifications, questionnaire, validations, third-party surveys, detailed documentation. So all that happens, which is actually required. I don't say that these are all unnecessary because insurance company manages or is a custodian of trust fund. The policyholders have trusted the insurance company and handed over the funds, the insurance fund, the policyholders' funds, as we technically call them, to the insurance company. So they have to do a lot of due diligence in disbursing that amount, ensuring that the amount is fair and proper. But then that doesn't need sort of attitude change. It can be done with a lot of empathy and a welcoming attitude. So that is the first uh, hurdle that a person faces when he's approaching the insurance company. The second is there's a lot of expectation gap. The the client expects or the insurance insured expects X, but that is not what is actually in the policy. That is, if you take a policy for a health insurance policy for 1 lakh rupees, general a person thinks that up to 1 lakh, all expenses are covered. But then the moment he gets into a hospital, the moment he files a claim, he realizes that it's not that 1 lakh. There are a lot of deductions, there are sublimits, a lot of things. And these are not just to trick the customer. These are kept with certain intentions in mind because, again, as I told you, it's a trust fund. So there are frauds happening. Statistically, they say anywhere between 8 to 10% of the claim amounts are exaggerated fraudulent claims. So as a custodian of the trust fund, we will have to do a lot of due diligence before this amount is being disbursed. There's also a cultural mindset in fraud that is in India or in many parts of developing nations. We feel that uh, cheating an insurance company or claiming extra and getting is a sign of smartness. It's not that you are doing a crime. It same used to happen to banks. You take a loan, don't repay it. It is seen as an act of smartness till CIBIL, all that came in. So that there's a cultural mindset that insurance companies are sitting with hoards of money, and then you can go and file a wrong claim, get and make a profit out of the claim. So that is again a cultural mindset which needs a change. So insurance companies protecting themselves and more importantly the policyholders' money when they put you through a lot of these validations. So and they also ensure that they don't pay anything more. Even if they pay a little less, they don't pay anything more. So first thing is keep the expectation gap real. Let there not be an expectation gap. Study the policy when just let not the agent sell a policy to you because he's pushing it. Study the policy well, read the fine print, double check, document everything. That is, if there is a claim, please document it. Don't just make a call and tell the insurance company. Document the things. And if there are service providers, that is, in case of an automobile, the service provider is a workshop. In case of your TV is to be repaired, the service provider is a repairer. There is a hospital, there is a health claim. Trust them, but verify. Because in most of the cases, we find that it is a service provider who also exaggerates claims, who says something, but then comes out with something else. So if you ask me, 50% is the expectation. Study the policy and then find out what exactly the policy pays. And then be very diligent with the insurance companies. Tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So that will help the insurance company to do a due diligence and do things much faster. But having said all that, the claim process is a little difficult issue when you actually face it. So that's the truth, and insurance companies are working to improve the customer experience, but still, so long as the expectation gap is there, the experience will be subpar. Back to you, Surya.
Right, right. I think that's a very important point you mentioned about culture fit. So that is something a very unique, concept. Maybe how we understand the dynamics of claims and how culturally we misuse certain elements unless some measurements by the regulatory authorities are put in, like the civil, as you mentioned. So yeah, I think that's very well put out, thought behind the challenges that customer face during claims. And of course, there are elements that customers also take advantage of, which are making the claims process more stricter with respect to governance. Babu Paul, my last question is, from your experience, what does a good claims experience truly look like, and how it is evolving in India's, digital first infrastructure today, or rather in today's digital first world?
Surya, very relevant question, because India is very fast moving into digital adoption. And technology has a big role to play in making the claims process simple, as well as the experience much better to the client. And coming back to the fraud detection, technology can play a very important role in fraud detection. So if the frauds are eliminated, you can't eliminate it completely, but if it's
Yeah,
eliminated, two things. One, the premium comes down because the customers pay for everything. So if there is a 10% fraud, your premium goes up by 10, 11, 12%. And
right.
second, the checks and balances comes down to a large extent. So this is one advantage of fraud coming down. Now I'll come back to your question of what is a good claims experience. If you ask me as a client, as a customer going to an insurance company or a customer going to any place, first of all, I should be welcome and I should be treated with empathy. That is the first thing which anyone looks at it. This guy is coming to you after having a misfortune, after having an accident. His vehicle has met with an accident. Somebody is in hospital, somebody died, something has gone wrong. So first is empathy. You just relate his misfortune and then talk to him smooth. So that, I think, solves 50% of the problem. Second is quick and fair settlement. Take only required documentation, because you take the entire KYC details at the time of onboarding, at the time of taking a policy. Again, you take them at the time of filing a claim. Again, you take them at the time of making a payment. There are multiple times same document is being asked, which is it, to me, is criminal waste of time and energy. So the biggest thing is to be treated with empathy, quick and fair settlement with minimum required documentation, and um, seamless adoption of technology. I'll tell you one example I personally felt when I booked a ticket in one of those leading travel portals of India, and when the ticket had to be cancelled, I had taken an extra insurance protection from a digital first insurance company. And you will not believe, Surya, I got the claim credited to my bank account in less than 2 minutes after. Because as soon as I cancelled, I got a mail. Then I
Yeah,
confirmed cancellation. Then they asked for my bank account, which I shared. They sent 1 rupee and asked me for my confirmation. I confirmed. The balance money was credited to my bank account. So that is something which is fabulous
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
use of technology. I have also encountered, of course, it's outside Singapore Airlines, when there was a delay in checked-in baggage. I just filed a claim. They didn't ask me for any documents, because since I travel by that airline, they had all my documents, and the manifest showed that the luggage was not boarded to that flight, and it will come 12 hours later, next day's flight only. And in about 2 days' time, the money was credited to my bank account, because there is a seamless integration of the passenger manifest, the luggage manifest, and the claim processing system of Singapore of that insurance company. So technology can bind these things and make life easier. So that is where you find today motor claims and health claims, which constitute almost 85 to 90% of the claims in India, are settled through technological interventions. The health claims, when you go to hospital, you get a cashless, and that is done with technology. Unfortunately, hospitals, insurance companies, the servicing agencies, they don't run on the same software. The data is not communicating, so that creates a little bit of delay. But if you have something which the data is integrated, the information flow is seamless with the required level of security, these claims can be done in, say, today 2 hours, 3 hours. So technology has a huge role to play as we proceed, because that is one thing which cuts time, that is one thing which is scalable, and that is one thing which is reliable. So this is in essence of how technology can help. I can elaborate, but I think we'll make it crisp. Back to you, Surya.
Right. No, absolutely. I think you have touched a very important point, that is on the fraud element and how technology can really help companies detect that. Of course, you cannot eradicate completely, but yes, that's the area, where the insurance companies, majorly, incur losses, right? Apart from any other business activities, and how technology can really bring in that last minute of touch point that the customer needs, completely revamping their end user experiences. I think that's fantastically, very well articulated, and most importantly, with the small examples that you have added to your explanation. I think that makes a lot of sense to the listeners and to the layman's on understanding, claims and how insurance is evolving with technology. With that, thank you, Babu Paul, for sharing your insights with us today, and it was a pleasure having you on the show. And
My
to our
thank you, Surya. You had framed questions very very well, which covering the entire gamut, right from onboarding, customer experience, and the digital partnerships. Thank you.
Thank you, Babu Paul. And to our listeners, if you have enjoyed this episode, get to follow Insurtech Story Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Amazon Music, and share it with your network. Until next time, stay safe, take care, and goodbye for now.